Recently, a massive game developer copied Overwatch and released their own game. Overwatch, as we all know, is heavily based on Valve's Team Fortress 2, which was also based on a Quake mod. Why are all of these hero shooters copying each other? Didn't they learn from LawBreakers, Paladins, and Brink? Funny enough, I was waiting on an Overwatch queue when I was scrolling Twitter and I saw Gundam Evolutions. It looked a whole lot like Overwatch, and I noticed these characters were familiar looking. It's from that huge Japanese franchise called Gundam. Yes, those things that PewDiePie loves. Anyways, guys, I played it. Coming from 3,000 hours of Overwatch, this was surely a sight to behold. The first thing I noticed is that some of the heroes were just straight up copies. Soldier 76 in Overwatch has the same exact kit as Pale Rider. Same with the character that's like Widowmaker. It's called Sniper. They even have the same ultimate and so on. There's a couple different examples of this. The game modes are also the exact same. The F1 screen to see the hero abilities is the exact same. The player icons, sprays, the medals that you get for your stats, they're all basically the exact same as Overwatch. And this is why I love hero shooters so much. Like, why do they copy each other so closely? I do have an answer. Of course, we can draw these same Overwatch heroes back to their Team Fortress 2 counterparts. Copying isn't always a bad thing, unless it's Paladins. It's just a worse version of Overwatch in every way, and it just feels cheap, and it didn't bring anything new. This is why I respect Overwatch a lot in this regard. Team Fortress was a great game, so that Overwatch could be an amazing game, borrowing mechanics and gameplay elements that worked and fleshed them out to not be an exact copy, elevating the quality of the entire gameplay experience. There is a lot of evolution in the gameplay between Overwatch and TF2. The evolution between Overwatch and Gundam Evolution isn't as wide, but it is as fun. Gundam is basically the Call of Duty of the hero shooter genre. Your spawns are very close to the objectives, keeping you in combat constantly. The King of the Hill game mode in Gundam is maybe a 6-second walk back from your spawn. It's really fast. And this is a rather unique take on Overwatch as a whole, and it's surprisingly good. It's a lot less complex than Overwatch, which is both good and bad, meaning it's way more attractive to arcade shooter players because it has more of an emphasis on the actual gunplay. If you are at all experienced in Overwatch, which I believe is probably one of the hardest shooter games ever made, you are going to be very good at Gundam. I should not have almost 100,000 damage as the Soldier 76 character in Gundam. 20 to 35k is about the average for a decent match. And in this game, I'm glad that they copied a lot of parts of Overwatch, just like I'm glad Overwatch copied elements of Team Fortress 2. As long as it's being done in a way that improves the genre and brings something new on top of it, it's very welcomed by us players. Fun is obviously the key benchmark here. Now, if you're wondering if this game is better than Overwatch, it's not. But if you have friends that play only Halo or Call of Duty type of games, this will be the hero shooter that you guys finally bond over. And you could show off how good you are because any skilled Overwatch player is going to be amazing at this. There's no specific roles in Gundam like Overwatch has, but there's an obvious tank-kitted hero that has a shield and more health, and then there's agile characters that have a little bit less health, so it's like you have your Tracer kind of damage, you have your more tanky Reinhardt, Roadhog type characters, but you're not locked into any roles and you can play whoever you want, which gives this a nice identity in the hero shooter genre. We've seen Team Fortress 2 capture the interest of the gaming community at a massive scale, and then we saw Overwatch later do the same. And after seeing LawBreakers crash and burn and Paladins basically die, we're really left with Overwatch 2 and Team Fortress 2 as the only main hero shooter games. Where does Gundam fit into this? Here's the truth. Gundam is way better than LawBreakers and Paladins. I don't see it ever dying to that extent. But defeating Overwatch is probably never going to happen. We know TF2 usually has around 100,000 people playing at a time, and with Gundam averaging 20,000, it has a good start. I see Gundam being the simple hero shooter game that is more welcoming to players who've never played a game in this genre, especially people with low-end PCs, because this game is very easy to run. I can tell it was built for the Japanese laptop cafes because probably any PC from 2010 could still run this. The polish on Overwatch will be unmatched, for sure. Overwatch 2 was basically perfect in that regard. 600 FPS and buttery smooth gameplay. The menus and UI are world class. Gundam, however, is capped at 120, and there's definitely not the polish you'd like to see, but the frequent updates have been really promising, and that's a detail that really matters. I trust that Overwatch 2, as these months and years progress, will get frequent updates. We have the initial roadmap for how seasons will work and getting new maps and new heroes, and I hope that other hero shooters copy that. I really hope the TF2 community gets more updates because, wow, they really deserve it. We thought we had it hard on Overwatch for 6 years of not that much content. Try TF2, who's going on like 15. Updates are great if you bring an experience that's attractive to players. You can retain them for a long time, but you have to be more than a copy. And that's why I see the last 5,000 Paladins players leaving for Overwatch 2, because both games will be free to play, and one is really just a cheaper copy of the other. It's going to be icing on the cake when Overwatch's PvE finally releases next year. Overwatch is no doubt the king of the hero shooter genre, but I definitely pay my respects to the founding fathers, because without TF2, I honestly believe there would be no Overwatch. It's pretty easy to see when a game is going to flop in this space. Looking at LawBreakers, who was heavily compared to Overwatch around its launch, you could tell they were frustrated with the comparison, and even went as far as saying that they're glad Overwatch came out first because it shows them how not to make a game.
We're actually happy that there's games like that, Overwatch and Gigantic out there, so we can actually look at what they're doing and specifically say, let's not go in that direction.
Oh, you're just a Overwatch ripoff, and it's like, well, we were working on everything we knew for this game before we even saw Overwatch.
Now that's a bit odd given Overwatch's massive success and player satisfaction. Why would you not want to make that? It was positioned as the adult version of Overwatch, and they made Overwatch sound like a kid's game.
Played Overwatch, it's absolutely fantastic. Blizzard can do no wrong. But I think one of the main things that's going to make us stand out is our tone. The fact that we're kind of a mature rated game, or kind of more of an adult one. Our world is less saturated. It's not fully Dayglow like a lot of those characters. And a lot of those games, as great as they look like they're for a younger crowd. Filmed with whimsical characters instead of, you know, ones that I find aspirational that are a little bit more Quentin Tarantino.
Just like how you could call Pokemon a kid's game, but literally everyone that I see playing it is a grown adult. It's kind of funny how that works. LawBreakers lost their player base really fast. Around the same time, another hero shooter called Battleborn was trying to compete, and it was generally accepted at first, but it just couldn't keep up with Overwatch. Back then, lots of companies were trying to make that crossover between League of Legends and Dota into the FPS world. These MOBA-like games are really hard to pull off in an FPS perspective. That's why so few exist. And as time has gone on, new hero shooters have borrowed from each other and learned from past games' mistakes. It's always neat to see something new pop up, such as Gundam Evolution's res mechanic. It's almost like a battle royale game in that sense. If you get knocked, a teammate can res you every single time. You have to finish off an enemy to kill them after downing them. I'm really a big fan of this mechanic. Finally, I'm looking forward to the day the next AAA hero shooter game releases. After how high Overwatch 2 has just set the bar, it may be a while. Maybe we'll be waiting for Overwatch 3 for all I know, or Team Fortress 3. This genre of gaming has definitely become my favorite since Overwatch 1 initially launched, and I'm glad that some new games are coming out in the genre that add to the fun. I could see Gundam being a great game that holds a real player base eventually, and be almost like a gateway for arcade shooter players to venture into hero shooters and wind up trying Overwatch at some point. Because you all know my little saying, I still consider Overwatch to be the best shooter game ever made. So obviously, I want more people to try it, and so we have more people in the community. And thank you guys for watching. Have a fantastic rest of the night. See ya.